Okay. Hi, all. Welcome to our Facebook Live session. My name is Tao Anything. I don't know if anybody can see me or hear me. Hold on. Anybody out there? Okay. All right, so welcome to our first Facebook Live feed. We're just trying this out for the first time. We sent this out to a couple of folks, just hoping to get a couple dozen people on and, chat about, the USMLE, board, studying, whatever you guys want to talk about. USMLE-Rx, first aid. If you have any questions, feel free to, message us. I'm on Facebook, so ready to take questions. There was another post that was a scheduled Facebook feed, but that's not the right one. So if you're on this one, you're on the right one. So let's see. I see Mustafa is on. Great. Nice to meet you, Mustafa. Any questions tonight? Can you guys hear me? Hello, John. How are you? How long did it take to make the first book? Well, a long time. The book originally started in. I'll try to keep this short because this can go on and on and on, John. But the book started in 1990. It started off as a guide that was passed around by the medical students at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, and it started off as a. It actually was written in a database, so that's why all the facts were so short, because back then the databases could only hold 256 characters per field. So that means the title, the main fact, and the mnemonic had to be that short. So the original guide kind of circulated around 1989, 1990, and then in 1991, 92, it was actually published by a small publisher called Appleton Lang. They're no longer around. And then after that, it took off. I got involved in the third edition, and then when I was a student myself, and I helped revise the book in 1993, and I've kind of been with it ever since. So I've led pretty much every major revision, other than one or two revisions when I was an intern residency doing internal medicine. So yeah, that's the short story about how I got involved. So yeah, great question. Let's see. Richard says, "Thanks for your service." Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I can sit here and chat, or I can show you guys stuff. It's up to you guys. I think we planned this for 15, 20 minutes, whatever, but I can stick around for as long as people need. Ooh, I got a thumbs up. That's awesome. Let's see. Any other comments coming in? Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to read all the comments that are coming in, so I apologize if I keep looking off to the side here. Okay. What are some of the changes that are coming along in the future. So Tony, you're going to have to be more specific. Changes with the USMLE, changes with first aid, changes with USMLE-Rx. We can talk all night about changes. The big change with the USMLE is that the passing score recently got bumped up. So instead of 192, which has been for like several years, it's now bumped to 194. But otherwise, the USMLE has been pretty stable. Let's see. Oh, good. I'm getting more comments here and questions. I'm going to try. Do you have an internal medicine first aid book? Yes, we do. In fact, we just published it. Let me see if it's here. Here it is. I think we're up to the 4th edition, so I think I might have an outdated edition here. But here's the 3rd edition, so if you're interested, check it out. You know, these are my colleagues from UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. Peter runs ID, Tom is a hospitalist, Cindy is also general internal medicine, so a great group of people. So that's for internal medicine if you're interested. All right, let's see what's going on here. Evan goes, do you see students that complete all the flashbacks, see a big improvement in the USMLE QBank scores? Okay, great. So that's a great question. So how do we know if the USMLE, if the flashbacks actually help? So there's some data that shows that doing flashcards like flashbacks can help increase your board scores a little bit. But what we're seeing is that the flashbacks are really helpful in helping you get through first aid multiple times. And that's been shown to actually increase your board scores. And so what I'm going to do just for Evan is I'm going to show you a paper. Let me see if I can find it. And I think you guys will be really interested in this paper. You can Google this paper. The lead author is Jesse Burke-Raffel. This was recently published last year. And it's a cohort analysis of students who studied for the boards and what they used. And you can see all the stuff that they used and so forth. You can see that obviously first aid and UWorld and USMLE-Rx, you know, those, you know, Pathoma, those are really your key top resources. And then if you go to the regression model, I don't know if you guys can see this. Yeah, it looks like it's coming across here. But you go to this model here. You know, one of the things that you can do, let me see if I can zoom in for you guys so you guys don't have to squint so much. But there's a couple of things that you can do to do well on the boards. One is do lots of questions, right? Unique questions. So doing unique questions, as you can see, is very highly significant. Actually repeating questions, and I don't care if it's UWorld, repeating questions does not actually help you on the boards. But getting to Evan's question about the flashcards, and this is why I'm getting at it, doing multiple passes through review book, which in this case is first aid. The editors wouldn't let the authors use the name first aid. So this is you know, first aid. So students who did 3 or more first passes through first aid did better. You can see that p-value was statistically significant. So you know, there's a couple of things you can do. You can start early. You can use first aid a lot. You can do lots of questions, and you can have a high score goal. And that's about the only thing that you really have control over. So Evan, I hope that answers your question and ties it back to why you should use the flashcards, because the flashcards help you get through first aid. Let's see. Zara asks, do you recommend the organ system and the general principle book as a also for preparation for step 1? I do if you if you don't feel like you had a good grounding in your you know, in your undergraduate curriculum in those areas. So you know what are the organ system books? I actually have them here. This is the we have the we're into our 3rd edition. So here it is. This is a hefty little baby. You see she's a little thick, but I mean this covers all the organ systems. This covers pretty much 2nd year in a lot of medical schools. It's, granted, it doesn't go into a ton of detail, but it covers what we think is both high yield for your curriculum, but also high yield for the boards as well too. So yeah, if you know, this is a great supplement to first aid, especially if there were certain areas of your curriculum that just wasn't well taught. So Zara, I hope that answers your question. Mixed app versus first aid for internal medicine, what's better? You know, I think that's, oops, sorry. Wait a minute. I apologize. Forgot to show. Sorry, I forgot to switch to the camera. So here's the organ system book. So again, I was just saying that this is a good book if you need a supplement to first. You got organ systems and you have general principles. These were just revised last year. All right. Okay. Let's see what the questions are coming in. Mixed app versus first aid, which is better? Mixed app is question based, so that's good. I think they're both good resources. So I would say one's better than the other. I think they're both complementary. So first aid has got the didactics, it's got all the high yield facts that you want to for internal medicine that you want to study, and mixed app, for internal medicine is great for question based. Now the mixed app questions are quite hard, so I think in general they're actually harder than the ABIM questions. So just keep that in mind. All right. Hey, hello, Ahmad. Good to see you as well too. Send us some love. All right. Who else got questions? Steve Pham asked, what's the best way to use first aid? Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I think first aid is something that you want to pick up during your first year. I think you want to use it with your classwork. It gives you a general idea of what will be testable on the boards. So I think it's useful that way. I would try to read first aid along with your curriculum as you go through it, and then do it a couple of times, but in active ways, like as I mentioned, as somebody asked earlier, Evan, right? Evan said, hey, use the flash facts, right? Every time you do the flash facts, and I can show you to you really quick, you will see the corresponding first aid card. So sorry, I'm going to skip here. And if you go into USMLE-Rx, say you got our subscription, and you go to our dashboard, if you do our flash facts, let me load the application here. If you do the flash facts, ooh, we got some cool new stuff here. We've got the highlighting and we've got the UI hotkeys. Got some cool stuff. Kudos to our tech team that's doing all kinds of awesome stuff. When you're doing our flashcards, let's say you're doing the study stream. So here's a flashcard, right? So this is Evan here. If you click it, then you get the answer, right? And then you get the first aid facts right there. So you get the card, and so it's basically question-based learning. You get the question, you get a short answer, and then you get the reference directly in a first aid, and you'll know that ribavirin in fact is discussed here, as part of this question about this woman with their chronic HCV. Some people like to obviously take the binding off their first aid, and so if you Google first aid unbound or whatever, you can see what people do is they go to their FedEx, Kinko's, have the or Staples, you can have the binding ripped off, and then you triple hole punch it, and then what people do is then they take the relevant pages into class with them, and then they can mark it up as they go along, and then they'll add some of the relevant syllabus pages or curricular, whatever the slides are, and then they'll put it back into big binders. We're talking about the big D-ream binders, like let me see if I got one that you guys can see. Just a big fat binder, and then you just stick it along, and then that'll kind of give you your personalized first aid. So I hope that helps. But the key thing is you need to get through first aid at least 3 times. That's again according to the Michigan data out of this paper, right? So again, just I would Google or go to PubMed and search for Jesse Burke-Raffel. It was just published in Academic Medicine a couple of months ago. All right. What else do we got down here? Okay. So using FlashCard, yep. So Evans is saying, hey, it's better, is a more active way of getting through first aid rather than pass. Yes, I do not advocate just highlighting. So it turns out if you look at the science of learning literature, just passively reading and highlighting first aid isn't going to help you. You've got to actually put all that knowledge in application. So flash facts is an easy way to actively learn first aid as opposed to passively learn first aid. All right, how much is first aid important? It's very important. Obviously, I may be a little biased, but as I said in the Michigan paper, it's the only review book in that study that's shown to actually improve your scores. And I had nothing to do with that study. I had I have no conflicts of interest and so forth. So I can clearly cite the literature. How comprehensive are the First Aid Express videos? Okay, so these are the First Aid Express videos. So if you are in, again, our platform, to get to our videos, you can go where you can go here and you can click on the videos, or you can simply go down here and look at the Express videos. So the Express videos are fairly comprehensive. In fact, they're essentially key to first aid. So every topic in first aid, if you remember, like chromatin, there's a video there, and so you can watch. So there's a video for every topic, but the videos are much more comprehensive. They not only just cover, they don't cover just I'm going to mute this here. They don't cover just the the high yield board relevant stuff. It's really a mini med school talk, you can see here, and it's got flash quiz, it's got active learning again. So you're not passively watching videos. You actually have to answer quiz questions as you go through this. It's not just a bunch of pretty pictures, though there are some very nice diagrams, but it's really meaningful learning with a lot of active learning questions built into it. You can then, when you're done, you can assess your confidence, and then it comes all along with a workbook, and the workbook is also active learning. So again, you're not just sitting there. As you go through the videos, you should be answering these questions, and that should help you, again, actively learn first aid and actively learn what's high yield. All right, any other questions about that? All right, great. Thanks, Sarah. I'm glad you like our flashcards. Carlos says CK First Aid Step 2 CK is underrated, but it's actually the best review book for CK. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Carlos. We appreciate the kudos there. Ahmed asks, do you need to memorize first aid or understand it? You can't memorize. It's all about application. You need to understand. You need to be able to apply. So in fact, one of the ways to test yourself whether you really understand is when you read anything first aid, you need to ask yourself why. Why is that true? Why does why does methacholine? Why is methacholine a good way of testing for asthma or bronchospasm, right? So it's not just knowing that methacholine is used as a diagnostic test. It's all you know, so knowing why. If you know why, if you can start with why and answer the why or the how, just as important versus just as opposed to the what, then you can go a long ways to answering a lot of board questions, because it's not about rote memorization. It's really about application of information. All right. Evan has another question, I think. I was curious how you recommend using the NBME exam since they don't have. Yeah, so that's a great question, Evan. So what are the NBME exams, right? So these are CBS SSA exams. So here I'll show you where they are. So oops, let's go. I need to get to my web browser here. So let's. So if you go to NBME, they're here, and you can subscribe to them. Right, man, they hide these things. So these are the self-assessment. They're $50 to $60. You get them for, man, you got to really dig deep here. Here you go for step 1. So you can see here, and you see they've got all the information here, pricing here somewhere. Yep, $60. And you get them for 30 days and so forth. So I think that these exams are good for just benchmarking where you are. They're not going to give you explanations, but because they are correlated with USMLE outcomes, I think they're worth doing 1 or 2. Just try to use the most recent ones and work backwards, because the board exams do change, and the ones that are older tend to get a little outdated. Couple of caveats. I wouldn't do the NBME exam too close together. If you're in your dedicated study period, I would do maybe like every 3 or 4 weeks or something like that. And I wouldn't do one any closer than 2 weeks before the boards, or 1 or 2 weeks before the boards, because you won't have enough time to make adjustments based on the strengths and weaknesses profile that you get from doing those exams. All right, let's see. Let's go into can't repay. Okay. How do you keep from bloating the book? That's a great question. Yeah, so as you can see, we are at a svelte, how many, 800 pages. So we've been trying really hard in the last couple of years to say, hey, look, if we put anything in the book, we try to take stuff out. So we try to delete stuff that we think is low yield, and we try to compress stuff as well too. Because otherwise, if you put everything in the book, it no longer becomes high yield. It becomes more of an encyclopedia. And first, it was never meant to become an encyclopedia. But that being said, when we talk to students, they keep asking us to put more stuff into it. But we try really hard. And our student, as you know, the book is authored by students, and our student authors they're just super enthusiastic. They're super smart. And they want to add a lot of good stuff. But we are trying to push them to make these hard decisions about what you can put in and what you can't put in. So yeah, so we're gonna try to toe the line, and supplementary stuff we put on the web now, so we try to save space in the book. So I hope that answers your question, Ezra. All right, Joshua, how do you study for the USMLE Step 1? Well, journey begins with a single step. I will say that if you're looking for broad advice about that, I would check our blog. We do have information about studying for the boards, and let me see, where is it? It's not here. Did I kill it? Here it is. If you go to our blog, firstaidteam.com, you can see things like study schedules. You can get presentations from my talks, including how to study for the boards. So I have a whole hour talk about prepping for the boards right here. So just click this, or just check out the PDF. And we've got study schedules, as we've talked about. And there's also a whole bunch of blog posts, so you can just type in step 1, and then you'll get a lot of questions. But I guess just put in study or whatever, and then you will often get things like study schedules and whatnot. So so you type in study, you'll get a lot of advice that we've been blogging about in the past. All right. Is there a new edition of First Aid? So Vin wants to know if there's a new First Aid of Step 2 CK. Yes, there is. We're working on it. It should be going to press later this summer, and so should be in bookstores or on Amazon.com by the end of the year. So just keep an eye out for it. Thanks, Vin, for that question. Tony asks, let's see. Speaking of understanding, there seems to be a lot of straight facts, which without further explanation makes it fully difficult to understand. So those are the stuff at the end. So those are purely supplementary to what's in the main part of the book. So there's nothing, Tony, in the rapid review section, that's what you're talking about right here, that you can't find in the main book. So we made sure about that. And so we put this here, just as memory prompts on the day or two before the boards. This isn't meant for memorization. This is meant just to review the day or two before, just to say, hey, look, I just need to know some of these associations. While mostly it is applications, we do have some very simple application, associations in here. So you might be able, our theory is that you can pick up a couple of points with this on the day or two before. But again, everything that's in the rapid review section right here is in the main part of the book. All right. Let's see. Chanu has a question. What is the best way to learn from first aid if I don't learn too well from annotating? Okay, so annotating. So again, annotating is helpful, but you need to be able to put it into some sort of active recall. So you need to be able to put into flashcards. So there's, again, for at least short to medium term memory, flashcards are known to be helpful, but try to create application questions as opposed to just rote memorization recall questions. So, patient comes in with this, how do you diagnose that, or how do you, what's the mechanism of disease or something. So that's going to be more interesting than just, name the gram-negative rods or whatever, because that's not likely to be actually asked on the exam. So a lot of it is actually how you set up the question. The other thing that the other technique that you might want to do is called elaboration. So I have a whole talk about learning how to learn, elaboration it's called elaborative interrogation. What you simply do, and unfortunately I don't have an explanation, but what you do is you simply explain why is that true. So again, it's all about asking why. So if you're doing that along with self-testing through flashcards and you do it over time, that's called distributed practice. The scientific evidence shows that you will learn and you will be able to retain this. But I think elaborate interrogation is an overlooked. So yeah, here's my joke here. Keep asking why, and then you'll eventually learn. If you can explain down to 3 level whys, then you're really going to understand that topic really well, and you can retain that for a long time. And as much as we're all about mnemonics and all that stuff, at the end of the day, you're going to have to be able to apply this in the clinical clerkships in unusual medical clinical scenarios, and understanding the why is really going to help you long term. Okay, all right. How much more is on the boards than what's in first aid? Well, that's a hard question to answer. So we don't know what's more is on the boards. The boards has this blueprint that you can look at, but it's a little vague. So it's not as useful as we'd like it to be, but it is what it is. We think this is a good book. I would say that just keep in mind that this doesn't replace 2 years of medical education that you should have been engaged in, and the boards has somewhere, we think, between 30 to 50,000 questions in their question bank that they use, and they have many versions of the step 1 exam that's out there floating around at the same time. So it's really hard to pin down exactly what's on the board, and obviously for good reason. But first aid will get you a far ways down the road, and as we said, as the data shows, let me see if I can actually show you in the paper. In their univariate analysis, and this is with the Michigan medical students, if you looked at students who, and again, this is not controlled, this is uncontrolled data, but basically, if students did 2 or more passes right here, they got about 12 points more than students who only did 2 passes or less. So take that data as it is. It's uncontrolled data. All we do know is that it does work. So you're better off obviously with first aid than without it. That's as far as I can go. Let's see. All right, so we have a question here from an IMG. Aurelio asks, do you think the immigration process for IMGs is going to be more difficult under the current administration? Yes, it will be. We work with actually international medical schools, and so they're already telling us that they're already starting to see some of that difficulty. Some of it's real, some of it's anticipated. We think more is coming down the line, so it is a unfortunately unstable situation right now. I wish I could tell you more, but they are going to make it harder for H-1B visas, J-1 visas. It's going to be tougher. They're reducing that, but they're also increasing the requirements on that as well too. So all around, this is going to be a tougher road for IMGs, and I really feel sorry for that. And just by the way, my father's an IMG, so we know the path that you guys have to take, and we wish you guys the best of luck on that. All right, let's see. Let me see how we're doing questions here. So our class grade versus scores. How important are class grades versus board scores in residency applications? And do you see a correlation between class grades and board scores? How do you recommend finding the right balance in school? Focuses on irrelevant information from boards, taking away from boards. Okay, great question, Evan. Last question, huh? Really? Okay, not just kidding. Happy to take on questions. So this is the way I look at board scores. I don't have the data in front of me, but there's been several studies looking at this. So it's clear that USMLE scores and your grades to some extent help residency program directors in the competitive residencies decide whether you get an interview or not. And I'm talking broadly, and that applies to U.S. medical students, IMGs, and so forth. I would say USMLE scores maybe a little bit more, but I don't really have strong data for that. But here's the deal: once you get your foot in the door, once you get your interview, then things like your dean's letter. Well, actually, it's your interview. Once you get the interview, it's actually the interview that really becomes the #1 factor in deciding whether they actually rank you or not after you get the interview. So it's really the interview, then followed by the dean's letter, then by letters of recommendations typically during your clerkships, right? Specifically your sub-I, your sub-internship, or your acting internship. That's really critical. And again, those things become more important after you get the interview. So I hope that answers your question, Evan. All right, let's keep going. Any special recommendations for IMGs? No, other than, I think it's clear, and I think all IMGs know that for better or worse, because of the competitive situation and because the number of GME slots have been relatively flat and they haven't been really increasing that, for IMGs to match successfully in the United States, you do have to score well above the average, even for primary care residencies like internal medicine. It's just that competitive. So you want to do that. You want to try to do rotating clerkship, any rotations in the U.S. at a hospital or at a clinic, wherever you can. That would be helpful as well too. So those are the key things. I'm trying to think if there's any recent publications. This unfortunately is a little old. It's probably out of date now. This is the IMG's Guide to U.S. Medicine Residency Training. It's old. It's 7 years old. But I think some of the I don't even know if they print anymore. But here it is if you want to take a look at it and take a screenshot. I don't even know, but that's probably the best. We used to have a first aid for the IMG book. That's out. That's no longer. Actually, I take that back. In here, we do have. You can look at our updated guide. So, in fact, this is how you get to our updated guide. So go to our handy dandy blog, and under bonus stuff, just click supplement special situations, and voila! At no cost to you, we have a mini first aid for the IMG. So 13 pages of super high yield advice, we hope, for IMG. So please check that out. So at firstaidteam.com. Okay, QMAX versus UWorld. What's better, right? Jorge, is that right? Fight, deathmatch, right? They're both great resources. We rate UWorld an A+, in the resource guide. And QMAX is just a step behind it, an A. But that data is old. I will say that we have been revising our questions through a process called Operation Excellence, and our new questions are just absolutely amazing. So I don't know if anybody is using RX or QMAX right now and seeing any of these new questions, but they're absolutely amazing. In fact, a number of students are saying that they're better than UWorld. So we're constantly gathering data and feedback, but right now I would say the two question banks are pretty close to each other, but in a couple more months we'll be done with our revision, and we think that our questions are actually, I know this is a bold claim, but I think our questions will be better than UWorld. So Jorge, please do give us some feedback if you do use QMAX and compare to UWorld. All right. So Janu has another question. Or actually, Isha, I'm going to go backwards here. What books do you suggest to supplement first aid? So the popular ones, I think people generally know. So, depending on who you are, if you're an IMG, that's another reason. If you're an IMG, I would absolutely consider picking up these books, because this gives you a good review, especially if you're, if you've been a couple years away from your medical school training. If you're a U.S. medical student, then it's things like Pathoma and QMAX and UWorld. Some people like Sketchy. Sketchy is very popular. Sketchy Medical. Those tend to be the super popular ones. Okay, what else? What books? Okay, so we were talking about the books. As many changes, especially in new facts, how does First Day keep up with this? Yeah, well, I mean, the reason we're able to keep up is that we're by students for students, right? So students go through, they go through this very challenging experience, life-changing experience, and then they take those experiences and help us revise the book every year. So that's how we stay current. No more, no less. We do keep an eye out for what's changing in medicine. So we have a group of 30, 40 faculty. So when they say, hey, look, it's time to move from DSM-4R to DSM-5, which happened 4 years ago, then they're on the cusp of that. New hypertension guidelines just came out 4 months ago or 3 months ago. So those are now in the new first aid. So so things like that show up. And here's where things get a little interesting, right? Our content sometimes get ahead of the boards, right? Because it takes quite a while for board questions to make it through the pipeline. And I don't know what they're doing these days, but it's possible that there are board questions floating out there based on old medicine. And when I say old medicine, it's not that old. We're talking about 1 to 2 years, but from the time something gets published in JAMA, New England Journal, or whatnot, it takes a little time. In first aid, if it's seminal, we'll get it out that following year. So usually within 6 to 12 months of something that's seminal that got published in a major journal or a major guideline, if it's that big. All right. So what's the best way to tackle an organ system? Okay. So I don't generally have a lot of good advice for that at the moment. Again, organ system, you want to, the general advice with organ systems is that you want to integrate all the disciplines. So the anatomy, the pathology, the physiology, the pharmacology, you want to kind of make all those connections. So let's say it's cardiovascular, right? So then you need to think about, how nitroprusside decreases your afterload if you're a patient with end-stage CHF, who's in the CCU, who's trying to make it by with an EF of 20% or something like that. So so that's that's the best advice I have. Again, try to make those connections across multiple disciplines. Hey, I see Vikas out there. Hey, Vikas. Vikas is our co-author. He's based in the Philippines, and he's on as well too. So welcome, Vikas. All right. When will organ systems be revised? It was just revised last year, so it's not going to be revised for a while. That was a massive 1.5 year revision process, and you can see that was like over 1,000 pages worth of stuff. So we're going to probably wait a couple years. It gets revised every 3 years or so. So it'll be a little bit later. Okay. How does it get effective? So that's really tough. I don't have any great advice. There are services out there, and you can Google them, that for a fee they can try to set you up with a rotation. Typically, it's in a big urban center like Chicago, Philadelphia, New York. So they're out there. I don't know them off the top of my head. I not personally had to recommend one, but I know they're out there and they can potentially set things up. So that's a way to do it. How should you suggest use of clinical case part? In the most efficient way. So we have. I don't have my step 3 book handy. Actually, I do. Let me see. But that's an old one. Let me see if I can find a more recent one. Shoot, what did I do with it? I must have stuck it somewhere. Let me see. Do I have it? Well, this is an older. So you can almost look at these as flashcards, right? So what you probably want to do is with these cases, you want to take a piece of paper and let's see. Let me see if I can do this right here. You want to take a piece of paper while you do this, and then you kind of you kind of, as you go through the case, you try to cover it up, and then you try to, you try to see what should be the next step. You might give your, like for example, the history and the P is what you want. That's what you might get in the clinical presentation. Then you try to work out the differential diagnosis before you reveal it to yourself, which is here. Then once you get the differential diagnosis, then you want to kind of say, okay, what should be my initial management? Then you assess yourself here. Then that's the initial management. Then and then so forth and so forth. And then what should you do with the continuing management? And then follow up. So that's generally how they're going to try to do it on CCS with the step 3. All right, next question. Lectura video series. I've heard they're nice videos. I've watched a couple. I don't know how high yield they are for the board. I think they're designed to be more comprehensive for curriculum and stuff like that. They've not. We haven't gotten a lot of feedback yet in our survey, but we may soon. All right. What is the average study time necessary to prepare for step before peaking? Nobody really knows that. It's different for different people. I will say that at some of the schools where we've been talking to students where they have like 6 to 8 weeks of dedicated study time, if it's a good school, if they're good students in good school, that might be a little bit on the long side once you get to your dedicated, and if you've already been doing several months of studying before that, on the weekends and evenings, that type of stuff. So it's hard to tell. I think the way you can tell is, to be honest, it's really, at some point you're just aiming for your score. You should be doing, if you're doing questions in a Q bank like ours, we'll give you a predicted score if you do enough questions. Or you can do the CBSSA, obviously you will have their self-assessments and so forth. That'll kind of give you a sense of what your velocity, you're starting to peak and whatnot. One thing that's really related to peaking is burnout. And so what you really want to focus on is not burning out. And so that means not, being chained to your desk, 12, 13 hours a day. Try to have a little bit of a life. And so that means going out even or so forth. Because in fact, I remember when we were counseling medical students at university where I'm at, we would see the students out on the dedicated period because you just need to take a break. Your mind cannot continually process all that information, 24/7. So part of maintaining your peak is making sure that you take sensible breaks. Make sure there's enough time to catch up on subjects that you might have neglected or overlooked, and also make sure you have some time to be with friends, family, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your loved ones, go out for a jog, that type of stuff. So you need a balance. So hope that helps. All right, let's see. We've got some good questions. Keep them coming. Would you consider translating first aid? Yeah, so that's not our decision. Our publisher is McGraw-Hill, and so they have published it in different languages in the past: Spanish, Korean. I think it was actually even published in Greek many years ago. I'm not aware of how they publish it. Obviously, there's an English version in the international edition as well too. So hope that helps. All right. Let's see. Is step 1 graded on a curve or graded by raw score? So they don't tell us exactly how it is, but actually it is a curve. Actually, let me see. In fact, there's a bit of a curve. So let me see if I can actually even show it to you in our book. Here we go. And by the way, the Kindle version is fixed. If anybody wants to know, we apologize for it not working the first time around, but it is this time. So let me see if it's here. Yeah, here it is. So we don't know. So typically from raw score, there's a typical S curve, but this should be almost just as important to understand as well too. There's an S curve with percentiles as well too, so that's good to know. And so we simply took the percentile data from our friends at the boards, and we translated it into a much more readable graph, as you can see here. I don't know if I can mag it any more than that. And you can see that there's an S curve, and you can see that it flattens out at around 260. Also flattens out the bottom curve at around 200 as well. All right. When will ARCS 360 be updated with references? Very soon, actually. We've held them because we're also releasing the flashcards, and we're trying to release some of the videos at the same time. As you know, we can't write the flashcards and the videos until we're done revising the book. We only revise the book. As you know, we released the book in December or January, and so once that's released, then we're working behind the scenes to update the flashcards and all the videos as well too, and then we do all the references. So it's an intensely choreographed ballet of people and things that are going in the background, involving literally dozens of people virtually everywhere. But it will be. We're hoping to have it released by the end of the month. Initially the references, shortly followed by the flashcards, and then the video. So you'll see a whole bunch of stuff rolling out in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, you got 2017. A lot of the videos port over. I apologize, and of course, if you need to find the connection, you can look at 2017 for the moment. All right. For those who are taking step 1 after their clinical rotations, do you recommend studying for step 1 during clerkships? If so, what suggestion do you have? Yes, I do. I think here it's even more important to continue to do questions, because that causes you to, that forces you to apply. I would also consider doing step 2 CK questions too, not because not because they're showing up at step 1. It's because anything that involves application is helpful. There is a little bit of overlap between the step 1 and the step 2 CK in terms of thought process, what the physician's tasks are involved. So I would just do more and more questions. In my other first aid talk, I said, hey, look, you should do at least 2 Q banks. When you're preparing for the boards. In the Michigan paper that I showed you, students who do more than 3,000 questions do better on the boards than those who do not, just in the tertile. And we do believe that there's even more of a dose response if you keep going up here. So yeah, just keep doing questions. But if you're doing extra clerkships, I would think about investing in 3 Q banks and try do one during your preclinical, do one during your clinical, and then do a bunch of questions running up to the step 1. Let's see. Do you have? So Omar asks, hello Omar. Do you have any suggestions on ways IMGs could support themselves financially within the medical field prior to licensing? That is a great question. It's rough. I know that it's tough if you don't at least in terms of professional license. You can do certain things. People have done things like medical transcription, or they've done other medical assistant jobs or mid-level jobs. Some people who don't make it, they will. There's actually a program down in Florida where if you're a physician who hasn't made it through the system, you can go into a degree program to be a physician assistant, for example. And that tends to be maybe a bit of an easier go. Are we hiring? We're always looking for fantastic physicians and medical students, IMGs, and who have a passion for education. So feel free to reach out to us at First Aid and USMLE-Rx. So hope that helps. Okay, next question. Raghu asks, I have 2007. Should I buy 2018? So my personal opinion is it really depends. So if you haven't really marked up your 2017, I would get 2018 because it's the latest and greatest. We did do a major revision. If you have any questions about that, you can certainly look on Amazon. We have a description of what's changed in the book and so forth. We have 35, 40 new high yield facts. 35, 40 new images. We've tweaked lots, over 100 illustrations and images. Actually, I would say we did close to 70 new illustrations or major illustration revisions, and then we tweaked hundreds of more. Literally, there have been thousands of edits throughout the book. We do that every year. And again, it's not that we're just doing this for the sake of doing it. We have a team that comes in that are, that's very fresh with their experience, and they're providing, guidance, based on their own preparation experience. And so that's really, really fresh. So, the book is not an expensive buy compared to everything else that you're doing. If you're doing stuff like video courses, or you're already plunking down lots of research, so it's probably worth it. If you already marked it up, if you already marked it up quite a bit, and your boards are not too far off, like say in the next 3 to 6 months, then it's probably worth, it's probably fine sticking with your 2017 and using that, because you've already marked it up, and it's hard to move all those notes around. All right, let's see. What other books do you recommend for first aid for Step 2 CK other than first aid? So there's our colleague Conrad Fisher. He has an excellent book out there, and then also I think so you can look at we do have a supplement in the back. So there's so it depends. So there's generally popular stuff like that. There's also Step Up Medicine, that type. So I can just obviously name off the popular ones, but you want to you want to look at our book reviews in the back of first aid, and we have it for first aid Step 2 CK as well too. Alrighty, let's keep on going. Okay, so Vasily asks, what's your day as an allergist? So that's great. Nobody's asked me that ever, I think, on one of these calls. So I am an allergist immunologist. So that's my clinical board. You can become an allergist immunologist after either you pass your internal medicine boards and your or your pediatric boards, either way. And the types of patients I see, it's predominantly an outpatient practice. It's in terms of the types of patient interactions I get, it's very fulfilling. You're dealing with chronic conditions that can be very debilitating, like asthma per se, chronic urticaria, so hives. Some of them can be life-threatening, especially anaphylaxis, right? If somebody has especially children who have life-threatening food allergies, that's very common in our field. So we really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it also has a reasonable mix of both the clinical science and some of the basic science, because we also have some of the clinical immunology, including the clinical immunodeficiencies. The lifestyle is pretty laid back. We don't have that much call. So it's your typical outpatient clinic type schedule. We rarely get called in the hospital. We get called in, it depends on if you're a part of an academic medical center or not, but I'm part of a community practice. And so I get called in about 4 or 5 times a year, typically for angioedema consults, that type of stuff. Sometimes desensitization consults. Somebody needs to be placed on an antibiotic or an NSAID, aspirin, whatnot, but they need to be desensitized to that drug because they have a history of a serious reaction to that medicine. So thanks, Vasily. So it's something we enjoy. All right, Evan's back. I knew you'd be back. All right. Will flashbacks ever become a Step 2? We're working on some of those things. So stay tuned. We don't have a release yet date, but we are working on at least for Step 2 CK. All right. I think questions are slowing down. We've been at this for 55 minutes. I didn't think we were going to be on this long, so I think we should wrap it up. If you guys are cool with it. I'm starting to lose my voice here, but I really appreciate all the questions. I hope this was really helpful for you guys. Do let us know any feedback about how the session went. If we could, we haven't really, like I said, this is actually the first time we've tried to do this Facebook Live thing. Normally in the past we've done it as a webinar. People, and it's standard PowerPoint type stuff, but I think people seem to like this as well too. So give us some feedback about this. Okay, we do have a couple of questions. I'll try to see if I can knock them out really quickly. Okay, Shazale has a question about getting an IMG, getting a residency. So I think we were able to discuss it. And again, if you want more information, get the supplement from First Aid, supplement on our blog, firstaidteam.com. How did you decide to start? So again, I was part of, the founding team was Vikas and a couple of guys, Ed, Jeff Hansen, Ed Chu. I think those were the founders. And then, a couple of, they kind of went away. Vikas stayed. I joined him a couple of years later. So I can't take the credit for helping start it, but I can take some credit for helping it grow to what it is today. So thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up because it's getting late. I do appreciate your time. You guys have been a great crowd. Please give us a like. Tell us your friends to like us, follow us. We'll try to schedule more Facebook Live discussion in the future, and hopefully this will be helpful for all you guys. And good luck on the boards. Good luck, with your studies, and we look forward to you on the other side. Take care. All right. Bye, everyone.